All right, so in this week's video, we're going to be going over some new data, and nothing is more cool than whenever there are little areas that are starting to show signs of life. So this doesn't mean that the all clear signal is here for stocks, but what it does suggest is that there are certain areas that are actually benefiting right now, and people just aren't talking about it. And that's what's cool whenever you're looking at data. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over those 4 areas that are seeing buy signals. And then we're going to go over one specific area inside of those that actually benefits from one of the biggest news stories out there. And I'm talking about the Canadian Truck Blockade. So if you're unfamiliar with that, you look on any major news outlet, you can see that there's a bunch of truckers that are on strike, and that is causing more supply chain issues, as if we need any more of that. So I will get to that later in the video. Let's first go and check in on some cool data. Okay, so is it a dire situation in the market? I am not sure. And in fact, I think that there are market clouds that are fading, right? And you're like, what are you talking about? It's so doom and gloom. Well, there are areas that are getting bought in our data that we're going to go over. So look, last week I was telling you that selling had slowed down and I need to start seeing some buying before I can get a little excited. Well, that's exactly what we're starting to see. Not a ton of buying, and it's not in the growthier stocks that I like, but there are certain areas that are actually thriving right now. And if you look by market cap, they are some of the smaller caps. So this is looking at the last 2 days, so it's Wednesday and Thursday, where there was actually nice buying in small caps. And again, that's where a lot of the pain has been, right? So again, it's new data, but check this out. The discretionary group started getting some buy signals. And you're like, why is that interesting? Oh, I don't know. It's the most buying we've seen since November 16th, right? That's what that bar is. Industrials, there is a group of industrial names, and that's the one that we're going to be talking about more in depth later. But this is the most buying that we've seen in a single day, literally in over a month. You can see that here. Then materials, you're starting to see a little bit of buying here, right? So again, we want to see and point out some buying. And then lastly, what's going on in communications? There's a group of stocks that are starting to ramp, right? And a lot of these are wireless, companies. This is the biggest amount of buying since late August. So listen, is there new data? There is. Now let's go ahead and do a deeper dive. Okay, so whenever I'm writing that blog, it's usually on Thursdays, right? So I'm looking at Tuesday, Wednesday's data, Monday's data. Well, you might be asking yourself, well, Luke, Thursday we had this huge market sell-off. Did the sellers come into town for those 4 groups? And they actually didn't. So for the discretionary space, looking at Thursday's data, right? There actually was some buying in that same group. And so you want to know what group it was? It's the travel and leisure group. I think that makes a lot of sense because the big money isn't thinking about today, it's thinking about months from now, right? What are people probably going to be doing? I have to assume COVID-19 is going to take a back seat. I'm hoping people are going to be traveling, right? They're going to be taking those masks off. Those are some of the companies that are getting bought right now. Let's go ahead and look at industrials. By the way, if you like this type of content, give us a like, subscribe, leave me a comment. For industrials, we're seeing the same subgroup that's actually getting bought, which we're going to get into in a few. But the idea is on a big, nasty down day, there are some areas that are showing green. What about materials, right? Raw materials, commodities, they're all expensive, right? So there are companies out there that actually benefit in that environment. So there still was some buying there. And then lastly, communications. This one really surprised me. Just look at the number of stocks, right? It's a small sector, by the way. 5 buys. The last time we had anything like that, you have to go all the way back to late August. So there's still signs of life in that group as well. Okay, so we have 4 areas that are seeing some signs of life, right? It's not broad-based. It's very subsector driven. But now there's one area that kind of blew me away as I started looking into some of the news and headlines of why this one group would actually be doing relatively well. Let's go ahead and get into that now. Okay, so this morning I turn on the news and the first thing that they want to talk about are these truckers that are protesting basically these COVID-19 mandates and how this blockade is causing supply chain disruption between Canada and the US. I didn't think much of it until I started getting into our data. So let's go ahead and look at that now. All right, so now we know that there's something going on in Canada. Now I go to my computer and I start to see that there's some buying that's going on in industrials, right? Which what I've been talking about. But check this out. So this just lists the buys and sells, just total count for industrial stocks. You'll notice that there's a big area that's getting bought February 8th, February 9th, and even February 10th. All right, so this jumps out at me because anytime you get like 11% or 10% of a sector, its universe is getting bought, I want to take notice, right? So then let's go ahead and look at some of the stocks. And right off the bat, this is telling me what got bought literally on February 10th, right? According to our process. And what do you see? Global Ship Lease, Star Bulk Carriers, Danaos Corporation, all of these Delta Airlines, all of these companies, what do they have in common? Well, if the blockade is causing truckers to come offline, right, and that's causing all those supply disruptions, where do you think a lot of the manufacturers that need those supplies, where are they going to turn? Probably to container ships. So let's now go look at some of those stocks. All right, so now this is cool. Let's check this out. So Global Ship Lease, right? You can see this stock is getting a lot of big money buy signals, right? And it probably is due to what's going on in this blockade, right? I just thought this was totally cool. These are the stocks that are getting bought. What about Star Bulk Carriers, right? I don't even know these stocks, but the big money is saying that that's where they're going, right? That's where the money is flowing. That might be where the near-term opportunity is. And look, it didn't just start the last couple of days. It's been going on for a while. But when you see this theme in the data, it just blows me away. I don't know what Danaos Corporation is, right? But it had a lot of buying earlier. Now it's starting to see that again. And the point I'm trying to make is that the data can really show you what's going on, possibly even before the news. So this is one of those cases where the data really spoke to me, and hopefully it did you too. Look, it's one thing to see what's going on in the news and try to make heads or tails of it. It's another whenever the data can start to connect the dots in a logical way. So remember, this is not investment advice of any kind. I just want to make you guys better investors and really open your eyes to what's possible with data. If you like this unique content, you find it valuable, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really helps us out. And most of all, just have fun, and I will see you next time.